What that can't happen to me thing happened to you? Type 1 diabetes. I started feeling extreme fatigue, and always got so sleepy after eating, about an hour or two after eating. I was working in a 40 degrees Celsius kitchen, so I didn't really clock that drinking 6 L of water in a day is a little much. I was peeing like every 1/2 H, and every time it felt like it was an emergency. I started Googling, and signs pointed to T1D. I have no family history of diabetes. Not type 1, gestational, type 2, nada. So I did what any logical person would do and Googled thirsty, urinating a lot, not diabetes, jokes on me. Went to the doctor. GF dragged me there after I called out of work, which is not in my nature, and they told me that I have a BG that was a little high. The nurse who took my BG had that voice though. The one that she was trying to hide the uneasiness of it all. The doctor sent me to the hospital with a sheet of paper with the BG results. They admitted me within 10 minutes, which definitely concerned my GF. It's usually a 2-3H weight on a real slow day. Came here to talk about school shootings, but unfortunately it's a painfully common thing that people have experiences with. My 16-year-old cousin was held hostage and killed in a shooting when I was 13, I'm 30 now. She went to such a small, remote school. I'd seen her just a few weeks before and she took me bra shopping for the first time ever. She was the closest person I had to an older sister and she was helping me transition into high school. That absolutely changed the trajectory of my life. I ended up getting my master's in neuroscience of mental health, and did my thesis on the effects of positive psychology on PTSD and depression outcomes in adolescents who experience mass trauma. Unfortunately, I learned in the process that the NRA blocks any research in the US about school shootings. The data isn't readily available and you can't get sources easily. It's diabolical. Got witch trialed by knife point for hours in my own home by a psychotic meth head. Fled out of a taxi because the driver molested me. Hailed down another taxi after fleeing the situation. Next driver closed the door and tried to rape me. Only came free after I broke his nose. Had to hide for 20 minutes under a car because he was driving up and down the streets hoping to find me. He didn't. Sometimes I don't even believe that this actually happened to me. What are the fucking odds? But all in all I am doing okay, it didn't break me, I am not ashamed. I kinda just locked the memory somewhere deep in my brain, it doesn't haunt me, I am actually kinda detached from my feelings regarding this. But I will start EMDR therapy in 2 weeks. I became way less naive after incident 2 especially. Maybe a blessing in disguise, my recklessness and inability to see red flags dramatically increased after this. I think me being on the spectrum and struggling with the concept of mind, basically assuming most people think like me and not being able to read between the lines often or detect lies and deception, made me very vulnerable for scenarios like these. Now I am more aware of my blind spots and being quite a bit more closed off. Sometimes I miss the old me. But on the other hand, I also realized that me being so naive and trustful might have ended badly in the long run. Maybe EMDR will help me find a healthy middle ground. I was really disillusioned as a kid about love for some reason. I thought it wasn't real and that all relationships were doomed eventually. Then I started to have feelings for my friend. We decided to be boyfriend and girlfriend, it was 8th grade. I was pretty sure it would be a long relationship, but it could only last like 6 months at most, because 8th graders don't stay together. But he was my best friend. So we did stay together. I kept thinking eventually the fun would wear off and we'd get sick of each other or annoyed because that's what I kept seeing in other relationships. But it just never happened. We've almost been married 10 years now, together for nearly 20. It's crazy to think it worked out so well for us, because we know how incredibly rare it is to find someone compatible at such a young age and then both grow in the same direction. Domestic violence. I come from a loving home where we talk things out, we never really yelled at one another, let alone got physical. falling in love with someone who, by the end, was either actively abusing me verbally, emotionally, mentally, and physically, or simply neglecting me, and our kids, entirely was a whole different world. I didn't know or understand or could even begin to label it for what it was. Call it naivete or bad luck, or a combo of the two, I don't know. While I'm happy I had a childhood that, while imperfect, was objectively good, I wonder all the time if I wouldn't have contended with the suffering I endured in my marriage if I had been a little more savvy or street smart. I was like a lamb happily walking into hell to be with a wolf in sheep's clothing. I never thought it could happen to me, I guess. Who does? I was only in that marriage for 5 years, but it has scarred me in every way to this day. We've been apart for over 15 years, and I've found love for over a decade now, with my loving, gentle, compassionate partner. But it doesn't stop the nightmares and flashbacks from coming back occasionally. So grateful to have my therapist who is helping me unpack that period of my life and work through my PTSD now. Nearly housebound with chronic fatigue syndrome. I grew up being told I could do anything, and my school and uni results reflected that, as far as they could. Now, after years of swimming against the tide of unremitting exhaustion, pain and disability, I've had to accept at last that I can't have a career. I feel like I'm watching life from the sidelines, while people around me achieve the things I still dream of but am too ill to accomplish. And now I get that can't happen to me from family, friends, society. I am severely ill, but people imagine that if a fire were lit under my arse, I'd run. Also, they don't have to imagine it could just as easily have been them. Or people, including some doctors, don't treat the illness as real, can't be struck down by something fake, can you? Others imagine they would never have gotten sick, or would have recovered. Few do, because they do all the right things for their health. Anything but accept that life is random in a way that often feels senseless. A negative one and then a positive one. The negative, developing a rather debilitating chronic pain condition. It started in my mid-20s, I'm about to turn 32. Sometimes I get really down, thinking about how much time this condition has cost me. Time with my family, friends, my significant other. Time out doing the things I love, and plenty of missed special events and dates. Stress is the biggest trigger, and I happen to have anxiety, so, lol. Some change to diet helps, nothing too acidic, no alcohol. But I've spent thousands on medicines, procedures, etc., and have still not found any improvement. I haven't gone longer than a week without a pretty rough flare-in, so damn long now. It's exhausting, it takes so much out of you, and there's simply no knowing if it'll ever get better or worse. You just take it day by day. Now the positive, finding my fiancé. I never knew love could be so amazing, or that I could find someone I'm so compatible with. Emotionally, physically, spiritually compatible. I never thought there'd actually be someone I was comfortably telling nearly everything to, even the scary stuff, but here I am, here we are. We made it through a rough spell that led us to a stronger foundation than ever before. We got through to the other side and are still growing together. Frickin' amazing, man. I contracted high-risk HPV. I got the Gardasil shot series when I was 13 to 14. I lost my virginity at 15 to a boy who had only slept with one person, who was also a virgin, before they slept together. 2 years later, I had my next sexual partner who had also only slept with one person. I have been with him exclusively ever since. We got together at 18, crazy it's been 10 years now, and at 21, I was at a routine checkup with my family care physician. She tells me, woohoo. You're 21, you know what that means? I say, yeah, I need to get my PAP, let's just do it. I get it done expecting nothing. It's just a routine thing, let's do it and get it over with so I'm good for the next few years. I get the results that I have ascus and HPV. I then had to be tested for HPV 16 and 18, which thank God, came back negative. I spent the next 6 years having PAPs every 6 months, 2 colpos, and finally a LEEP because the changes were only getting worse and never better. I absolutely never thought this shit would happen to me. I am almost 30 and I have slept with 2 people in my entire life. I got an STD, and not even a chill one I could take care of with antibiotics. It altered my life for years, and I'm still on edge about it potentially cropping back up after surgery.